All right, 539A. I'm going to read from this book again, Spirit Intercourse, J. Hewat McKenzie, 1916 edition. So J. Hewat McKenzie is describing different places in the astral world here. And this is page 201. A hell of the Epicureans. The author was greatly interested in one group of would-be aristocratic souls who lay around in the center of a large lake of warm water, endeavoring in this way to isolate themselves from those whom they called the common herd, people who on earth practiced similar vices to themselves, but who were limited in wealth and so unable to gratify their whims to the same extent. The vices of the poverty-stricken herd had kept them poor and sick and ugly, but the others, by means of their riches, had managed to cloak the results of their sins from the outer world. Some of the proud and degraded aristocrats had passed through universities on earth and had received what is termed an expensive education. Wherever they moved, they picked up vicious practices and left an evil trail behind. Their whole lives had been spent in trying every form of sense gratification. They were extremely bored by everything on earth except virtue, which arose within their dilettante natures, sarcasm, fury, and hate. They considered it a real disaster to meet anyone of a virtuous character. Here, these aristocratic souls were relegated to a muddy bath in nature's reformatory. The author makes no attempt to describe the mental suffering which all residents experience before rising from these lower spheres. A pen infinitely more capable than his is necessary to describe the agony of remorse, the ghastly fears, the awful soul efforts that all must undergo before a purified state is reached. These inner states of the spirit are left to the imagination of the reader, as it is the author's task at present to describe chiefly the outer framework of the spiritual spheres and some of the laws governing them. The middle, page 203, the middle astral world. The conditions of life upon the middle astral are considerably less objectionable than those of the lower plane, owing to the fact that the light is much better and the habitations very similar to those on earth. The light varies on the lowest plane of the middle astral from 30 to 50 degrees, so that the upper plane is illuminated with light equal to 1/2 the power of earthly sunlight. I'll digress here and mention another book, which is Wanderer in the Spirit Lands, another one of our books that we consult. And J. Hewat McKenzie, Francesco is the narrator of that book. And Francesco starts out in the dark. And as he moves up in the astral world, he ends up getting this house in the land of the dawn, which is the sun hasn't risen yet. So the person's state is reflected in their environment. And so Francesco has to improve himself as a person before he gets to live in the sunlight. So he moves up from blackness, darkness, to shade and shadow, and then finally he gets to the land of the dawn, where he has a house, Francesco does, that he talks about. And so it's kind of similar to this middle astral world. Francesco and J. Hewat McKenzie and also Monsignor Hugh Benson describe similar worlds. Anyway, so he says the light equal to 1/2 the power of earthly sunlight. Water is to be found in greater abundance, and the landscape is broken by low hills and large lakes, and a green carpet of moss is found in some places, which from a distance has the appearance of grass. The moss, however, is the only kind of vegetation to be found, as grass and trees are unable to grow, probably owing to the lack of light and the poor nature of the soil, which is of a character similar to shale or slag. The atmosphere is particularly moist. Sorry. The atmosphere is peculiarly moist and has a tendency to produce a slime upon the outer walls of the dwellings in some places. The buildings are congregated together in large cities so that one may enter a town and walk through streets of houses built after the pattern of earthly dwellings. The superior spirits who govern the states on the middle astral plane seek to keep them in every way similar in appearance to earthly conditions. The purpose of this will become obvious to the reader as he proceeds. The author on several occasions entered these spheres when out of the body and has been particularly struck by the similarity of the structures to the buildings known to him on earth. Here were found streets of working-class homes of a jerry-built type, with slums and tumble-down buildings in a state of disrepair and ruin, while other localities presented a more respectable appearance. One feature of this purgatory or paradise, whichever it may be termed, for it is both, was the marked absence of children from its streets and dwellings, for only on a very rare occasion did one find a child, and none below the age of 10 or 12 years. Let it be understood that the description here given of the astral plane only applies to that portion immediately over the British Isles. The appearance of architecture and life would be altogether different in the same plane over India, China, or America. For the inhabitants of each of these spheres create their own environment, and it must not be thought that other people would build cities and houses of European character. So you see what he's saying? There's a corresponding heaven above each earth. So we're here in Chicago. There's the Chicago spirit land upstairs, up above. And every place has its spirit land above. Anyway, now that's it for today. See you when I see you. Thanks. See ya. Bye.